How to do product research for dropshipping or any type of e-commerce in today's day and age. This is an up-to-date video for the latter half of 2024. And in today's video, I'm gonna give you a complete rundown of how I and the industry does product research, whether I'm dropshipping, housing product, basically if I'm doing product development research for my e-commerce brand. And I'm gonna give you the exact A to Z of what you need to do and replicate. And this is an industry standard. So this is something that you wouldn't otherwise know unless you work in this industry, but it's something that most people don't know, that there is like a playbook for this. There isn't exactly how you're supposed to do product research, and this is exactly how you do it. And now we're gonna split this up even further, and we're gonna talk about drop shipping and housing products because they are slightly different in your approach, and we're gonna talk about the scale. So I'm going to give you an idea of what larger companies do, and then I'm going to give you an idea of what folks that don't have as much capital do. And the delineation between those two are $1 million plus a year businesses versus not, right? So most of you guys are going to fall into the not category, so we're going to start with that. We're going to talk drop shipping first because drop shipping is still an area of the e-commerce world where you can make money. It is very competitive and you're competing against people that want low wages, but it's something that you can still do. I still do it to this day. It is the highest volume part of my business. It's not the most profitable, but I do it and I could live off what I make from drop shipping alone if I really wanted to. Now with drop shipping product research, obviously the A to Z for that is you gotta find a product, you gotta find a supplier to supply the product, and then you have to figure out the back end where you put an order in, the supplier sends it to your customer, and then you have to have a product that absolutely crushes when you have ad spend. Now that's the actual hardest part, is finding a product that converts, that when you spend money to advertise that product, you convert profitably for the product. Now that product research and finding that product is by far the hardest thing to do, and the thing that keeps most people out of this industry and keeps the industry competitive among those of us that are good at finding products. Now, the easy playbook for this, right? The easy way to do it is to compete with a product that is already doing well. Now, product research at its core revolves around quite a lot of testing. Now, testing costs money, and it's easy to do, it just costs a lot. Now, if you're starting this, you shouldn't replicate it. And I don't even replicate it. So when you're thinking about drop shipping and you don't have, let's say, a product niche or a store or a focus, but you can do this with a store or a focus, all you need to do is compete, right? You're never going to, and I hate to crush your dreams, you're never going to like revolutionize the industry without having a lot of money. It's just the metrics and economics don't work. But if you find something that's been done really well and it's still in its heyday, meaning that people are still spending large amounts of ad spend on it, find and compete with that product, undercut the price and compete for the ad space. So the best way to do the research is actually to have a window of your screen open to Alibaba or AliExpress, and a window of your screen open to the social media that you're most comfortable with, and look physically at what is being advertised. Now, a lot of folks say to use apps and websites that will pull in all the ads so you can see many of them. I'm actually going to say do not do that, right? It is hard to sell a product that you're not familiar with, and the best way to find products that you're familiar with that are being sold to you on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, whatever social media you're on, is look at the ads that are being displayed to you, because you likely are familiar with those products because they are being catered to you. Spend a lot of time on social media. Look at a lot of ads. Find something that's working. Find something that's clearly available on AliExpress or Alibaba that isn't super personalized, that isn't like a mega brand, right? Something that you clearly know that is being drop shipped. This is easy to do if you spend enough time on social media, right? And then go cross-reference it and find it on AliExpress, and then go through the rigmarole of finding out whether or not you can source the product for the same price. Now, once you've figured that out, that means emailing the supplier, understanding your ship cost, your quality, all the metrics, all your total cost to customer. Then go find out how much room you have for ad spend. You want about 30%. So when you're thinking about like pricing out a product, and I have a video on the channel on how to do it, you want to have a 10 to 20% margin on profit, right? You want a 30% margin, a 20 to 30% margin on ad spend. That means your product relative to your list price has to be 50% your list price. So if you can, like, let's say your competitor is selling something for $20, right? As long as you can get the product for under $10, you should be able to compete at the same price point. I'm always gonna say undercut the competition because it's harder to have good marketing beyond just pricing itself. So I'd be looking, if it's a $20 product, I'd be looking to source the product delivered to a customer for about $7. That allows me to cut the cost of the product by $2 or $3 for the customer, still make a 10 to 20% margin on profit, and have about 20 to 30% ad spend on it. And that ad spend is something that you can slowly cut down on your costs as you get better ad sets, right? Then you just rinse and repeat, and then you run ad sets and you test your ad sets and you rinse and repeat. And that's the best way to do product research, because you're not doing a whole lot of product research. You're trying to figure out what's working for other people and capitalizing on these short stints. Unfortunately, drop shipping is not a long form game. Housing product internally is. Now, to jump into housing the product internally, if you're doing product research, it's entirely different. Find something that you're comfortable with, right? Because you're gonna be housing product, right? This is different. This is not drop shipping. You're gonna be holding inventory. Find a niche that you're comfortable with, a product that you're comfortable with. Whether you like it, you're passionate about it, you can get behind it, something you're interested in. And then you're gonna do all of the same thing, right? But you want your product pricing to be significantly cheaper, because you have to realize you're gonna then burden some of the costs to the customer. So I always say, if I'm housing product, I wanna be at the minimum cost, to a customer, $30 or $40. That's my minimum threshold, because it's just, the economics don't work for something to be cheaper. Ideally, you want to be $50 to $100 or more for your customer's product cost, right? And then if, let's say you're $45, right? Your product to your customer is $45. You're selling things that cost you to bring in for less than $10. It needs to be landed to you for less than $10 for the economics to work, right? So like you're hearing right now, right? Product research is about the back end, but then it's about the same thing. So I do the same thing, right? When I'm looking, and this is when you don't have a niche or you don't have like a specific like business case for what you're doing. If you're just like, what products do I sell, right? You're gonna do the same iteration. You're gonna go on social media and you're gonna find products that work. Now, the caveat when you wanna house products, you need to find ads that are doing very, very well. How do you figure this out? Well, you look at the ads that have massive amounts of transactions around them. I mean, social transactions. So if you find ads that have huge numbers of comments, huge numbers of likes, that is a company, right, that is spending quite a lot of money on ad spend on that ad, right? They're making that money back. This isn't on a whim, right? You get to the point where you see stuff with so much social transaction that you're going to have ad spend. Now with that, this is the golden rule that nobody talks about. Start by drop shipping it. And if you can't, house a little bit of product. You might not make a ton of money, but house a little bit of product and go from there. And that's how you start, right? It's all coming from this short sprint mentality in product research. And I know that this video might be a little bit of a letdown, but until you do that 20 or 30 times with products that then become successful, you won't really understand the roadmap of how to go blank into it and do the testing, because that's not something I can teach you in a 20-minute video. And that's not how most successful people start. Most successful people start by copying and undercutting price for larger companies doing it. The larger a company is, as they get into the e-commerce space, the higher their costs are, the lower their margins are, the easier it is to compete with them. That's one of the downsides to an e-commerce business, is that the larger you get, the more competitors you have. You need to be one of those competitors. That's how you start. That's how your product research starts. Find something that works and cut out the need for in-depth product research. I know that sounds like such a paradox, and if you found this video looking for product research tips, it is still the right video for you, because you're not there yet, right? This is not the video you should be finding in your Google searches, right? I've got other videos on this channel that will be more catered to you when you get to that point. But if you're finding and watching this video, you're just not there yet. Even if you think you are, not to knock you down from your high horse, but you aren't. And it's not a bad thing. It takes years. I've been in this business for like 6-7 years operating, right? This is not learning. This is like full head-on, 100 miles an hour for like, we're nearing a decade now, right? And I'm finally at the place where I'm very comfortable with this idea of product research, what you have to do. I've got many iterations of success, right? But if you're 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 0 years into your journey, you need to do what everyone else has done, right? And learn every other aspect of the business, understanding that product research is the hardest part, but it's also kind of free because other companies do it for you and you just have to operationally compete. If you can't operationally compete, that's the easy part of e-commerce. So it's a good way to figure out whether or not e-commerce is for you. So that's the video. I know this video was very odd, but it's very instructional in that if you differ from what I just said, you're differing from everybody else that's been successful. Not everybody else, everybody else that's been successful. So if you want to hear what everybody else who is finding success in the industry is doing, do exactly what I just told you to do, and you'll best position yourself to succeed in the e-com world.